As a collaborator, we believe that the social worker would have to engage in dialogue that isn't judgmental and doesn't try to rewrite any of the experiences or project any preconceived ideas of who Anna is and where she comes from and what her struggle is onto her. It would definitely have to, all the sessions would have to be about how we can help Anna based on like what her truth is and what her experiences are and what she wants to see in terms of support in her life from outside groups or from the social worker. As the critical question poser, we believe that the social worker would have to personalize the questions to the perspective that Anna presents, and really respecting her agency when it comes to the answers of those questions. So it's the social worker would have to make sure that the questions are relevant. They're not necessarily like these boxed questions that just get asked because it's what we believe needs to be asked, and it's because it's actually something that's happening in response to what's being proposed by Anna. As a power equalizer, we believe that the social worker would have to just make sure that she was constantly engaging with Anna and listening to Anna and making sure that from the get-go Anna is comfortable in the space and that Anna is working as an active participant, through treatment and making sure that the social worker makes the environment as friendly to Anna as possible. As the co-activist, it would just have to be that the social worker is going to have to be like really aware and really clear that the social worker is in the struggle or in the predicament with Anna, that this isn't a leader-follower relationships where Anna is doing what the social worker says because the social worker says. It's definitely based on conversation and dialogue, and it's based on a mutual respect from the social worker towards Anna and from Anna to the social worker, and understanding that they're working towards the same common goal, and everything that the social worker does is aware that Anna is the expert in Anna and that we're there to assist and work alongside her.
Hi Anna, thank you for coming in today. My name is Rebecca. And Anna, I just want to remind you that this is a really safe space and anything that you have to say will be completely open and accepted. So please feel free to express yourself however you feel. So I just want to know what do you hope to gain from these meetings, if you don't mind sharing with me?
I just recently went through my first major breakup. I identify as a lesbian woman, and I immigrated here by myself, so I don't have much family support. And I've just been going through many emotions, most of them negative.
So you just went through a breakup, and you said you expressed some feeling of being close to your family. Do you talk to your family regularly?
Not too often, just because of how I identify myself.
Okay.
My family is very Catholic, and they uphold very cultural norms about like marriage and the family.
Do you think that there's anything that might prevent you from reaching from getting a support system?
I mean, although this is a progressive environment, I still feel like I will be judged just because I'm not open to anyone. Even in my workplace, I don't think people know.
Okay, so you mentioned work and that being something that you felt that you were kind of having to, you expressed some disconnect with that. Do you mind elaborating or explaining a little bit more about that?
Right. So currently I hold a small office job at a construction firm, and it's mainly dominated by men. And I found out that they make more money than I do, and I found that to be really problematic because they do manual labor, and I mean, I have the skills to hold an office position. I do have experience, so I would expect my paycheck to be more than that. It's not, and I don't know how to bring up this issue at work because I don't want to be dismissed, or even more like I don't want to be fired on the spot for like even speaking out about it.
What you're mentioning, like, that definitely sounds, you know, frustrating. And there are ways that we can get you connected. There's a lot of different things that we're going to look at. We're going to look at this from, you know, building up your social support network, because that's important. That's something that you identified as a goal. But we're also going to look and see what we can do, who we can collaborate with, and who we can work with to help you out with your job security and help you navigate through what you're experiencing at work, to see, you know, what's going on, and do it in the best way that we can, to where we don't, you know, risk losing your job, because I do understand that that's something that is very important to you. So I do want to, you know, express that, and also be completely honest in that Texas is a state that is employment at will. So as much as we do try to do, employers can just be the way that they are, and I know that that's very frustrating, but where there are organizations, there are unions who do work to protect their employers, and we're going to do what we can. Okay?
Thank you. I really
Is there
appreciate that.
anything? Sure. Are there anything else? Is there anything that you feel that the direction that we're kind of working with that doesn't feel right? How are you feeling?
No, I feel good.
So based off of our role play with Anna, she really identified both in impersonal and structural problems, and that she was facing in, you know, feeling kind of more isolated without her, due to her recent breakup, and then also not having her family nearby, and also not being able to really communicate with her family, who was her usual support system, both because of the distance and the nature of the relationship. And so with that, our change strategy was more of a clinical type activities. So that's why we mentioned, you know, trying to find support groups and different ways that she can kind of connect with people around her, based off of what she values, and, you know, similar, and them having similar values, so that way she can really kind of build up a support system for her and her interpersonal level for success. And for the structural issues, which was more surrounding her job, we were looking more at community action type agencies, and looking at, like we mentioned, you know, looking into unions, looking in different like job force protection, and so the types of activities based off of the table would probably be engaging Civil Rights Commission to investigate housing discrimination, but obviously this wouldn't be housing discrimination, it would be more related to employment discrimination. There's a lot more structural issues that goes into play, because the vignette didn't really clarify if she was herself documented or undocumented. It just said that she was an immigrant.
We would evaluate the potential change strategy by having Anna do weekly journals, so that we could discuss this every time she brings it up at the next session, and then we can go forward from there. And then the second option would be to work with another outside representative, so that we could pass along negotiation skills, because essentially that would be her end goal on getting her to be able to request higher pay in a safe environment.